Dear friends, welcome to International Organizations and Groups series under InQUEST program. In this series, we are learning about various international organizations and groups. This activity is useful for your UPSC, KPSC and all other competitive examinations. Dear friends, the content that we will be discussing here will be given in the form of PDF down in the description box. You may also download the same after watching the video. So in this series, today we will be discussing about an organization that is IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature. Now, what are the things that we will be learning today? Number one, what is IUCN? What is the scope of IUCN? What it does? How it is related to United Nations organization? Then its national and international policy, then its governance in the sense the structure of it and the funding, then IUCN Red List, or it is also called as Red Data Book. Then we will be learning about IUCN Animal Threat Category List, and finally we will be learning about various categories. So first and foremost, let us understand what is IUCN. So IUCN is called as International Union for Conservation of Nature, but officially it is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So it has both conservation of nature as well as the natural resources. It is an international organization working in the field of nature conservation. So this is the first point that you need to remember. So it works in the conservation of nature, and the second important point is sustainable use of natural resources. So these are the main two focusing areas of IUCN. Now it was established in the year 1948 and the headquarters is in Gland, Switzerland. Now what were the earlier names of IUCN? IUCN was initially called as International Union for Protection of Nature and Natural Resources. So this name was used between 1948 and 1956, and it also has been known as World Conservation Union. So this name was used between 1990 and 2008. But today we know it as IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature. Now, what is the scope of IUCN? So it is involved in data gathering and analysis, basically. Apart from that, research, field projects, advocacy, and education. IUCN's mission is to influence, encourage, and assist societies throughout the world to conserve nature and to ensure that any use of natural resources is equitable and ecologically sustainable. Over the past decades, IUCN has widened its focus beyond conservation ecology, and now incorporates issues related to sustainable development in its project. So it is now focusing on sustainable development as well. Now, what it actually, what is the, what it does. So IUCN does not itself aim to mobilize the public in support. So it doesn't do anything with respect to mobilization of public. Rather than that, so they actually try to influence actions of governments, business and other stakeholders by providing information, advice, and through building partnerships. So they basically work at the levels of government and business and other stakeholders. They don't mobilize the public in support of nature conservation. And how it is related to United Nations organization. IUCN has observer and consultative status at the United Nations and plays a role in the implementation of several international conventions on nature conservation and biodiversity. So whenever it is the point of nature conservation and biodiversity, United Nations organization is the added with, or IUCN is going to have its implementations of several international conventions that are related to nature conservation and biodiversity. It was involved in these two things. One is Worldwide Fund for Nature, and second one is World Conservation Monitoring Center. Now, what is its national and international policy? On the national level, IUCN helps governments to prepare national biodiversity policies. Internationally, IUCN provides advice to environmental conventions such as Convention on Biological Diversity and CITES, that is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, and the Framework Convention on Climate Change. So this is how it is, supporting, or it is going to provide advice internationally. It advises UNESCO. Apart from that, it also advises UNESCO on nature world heritage. It has a formally accredited permanent observer mission to the United Nations. IUCN has official relations with multiple other international bodies as well. Now, what is the structure or the governance and funding of IUCN? So let's talk about governance first. The World Conservation Congress, so it is actually the members assembly, is IUCN's highest decision making body. So very, very important. So the highest decision making body of IUCN is named as World Conservation Congress. The Congress convenes every 4 years. So it convenes every 4 years, and it elects the council, including the president, and approves IUCN's work program for the next 4 years and also the budget. And it also has one more thing below, World Conservation Congress, that is IUCN Council. So the IUCN Council is the principal governing body. So World Conservation Congress is the highest decision making body, whereas IUCN Council is the principal governing body of IUCN. The council provides strategic direction for the activities of the union, discusses specific policy issues, and provides guidance on finance and the membership development of the union. So these are the two structures of our governing bodies, our decision making body and governing body, that you need to remember. And the council is composed of the president, and there will be 4 vice presidents, and vice presidents are elected by the council from among its members, and there will be a treasurer. The chairs of IUCN's 6 commissions and 3 regional councillors, and they will be chosen from each of the IUCN's 8 statutory regions, and there will be a councillor from the state in which IUCN has its seat, that is in Switzerland. Now, IUCN's current president is Zhang Xinxiang, and the council appoints a director general who is responsible for the overall management of IUCN and the running of the secretariat. The current IUCN Director General is Bruno O'Brien. Now, what is the funding? How does this IUCN is funded? IUCN's funding mainly comes from official development assistance budgets of bilateral and multilateral agencies. Apart from this, additional sources of income are the membership fees, as well as grants and project funding from foundations, institutions, and other corporations. Now, let us understand about IUCN Red List or Red Data Book. The organization is actually best known to the wider public for compiling and publishing IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, which assesses the conservation status of species worldwide. So basically, it prepares a red list that is also called as Red Data Book. So this Red Data Book will be having basically the conservation status of species worldwide. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is with a red list of threatened species. This is also known as IUCN Red List or Red Data Book. It was founded in the year 1964, is the world's most comprehensive inventory of the global conservation status of biological species. Now, the parent organization, as we all know, this is IUCN. It was established in 1964. Headquarters is in United Kingdom. So this is serving internationally, and official language is English. And the affiliations of this, you can just pause the video and check various affiliations of this. Now, IUCN runs actually field projects for habitat and species conservation around the world. The IUCN Red List of Ecosystem is applicable at local, national, regional, and global levels as well. IUCN's stated goal is to expand the global network of national parks. So its major goals are to expand the global network of national parks, other protected areas, and promote good management of such areas. In particular, it focuses on greater protection of oceans and marine habitats. So these two areas that you need to remember, very, very important. So it is actually working towards expansion of national parks and protected areas, and also for their good management. Now let's talk about IUCN animal threat category list. Now how this category list is prepared. Species are classified by IUCN Red List into 9 groups, specified through criteria such as rate of decline, population size, area of geographic distribution, and degree of population and distribution fragmentation. So as according to these criteria, there are 9 groups. Number 1 is called as extinct. I'll tell you the meanings of everything. So now let us understand only the groups. Number 1, extinct. So it is abbreviated as EX. Number 2, extinct in wild, abbreviated as EW. Critically endangered, CR. Endangered, EN. Vulnerable, VU. Near threatened, NT. Least concern, LC. Data deficient, DD. Not evaluated, NE. So now let us see the meaning of everything. Extinct means beyond reasonable doubt that the species is no longer extant. So we cannot, or we may not find these species anywhere in the world. Number 2, extinct in the world, EW, survives only in captivity, like in zoos or any other captivities. Cultivation and or outside native range as presumed after exhaustive surveys. Number 3, critically endangered in a particularly and extremely critical state. Endangered, very high risk of extinction in the wild. Vulnerable, meets one of the 5 red list criteria and that thus considered to be at risk of unnatural in the sense human caused extinction without further human intervention. Near threatened, close to being at high risk of extinction in the near future. Least concern means unlikely to become extinct in near future. That means there are existing in good numbers. Data deficient, that means there is not enough data to put them into any category. Not evaluated, so those species might not have been studied. Now one more very important point that you need to remember here, in the IUCN Red List there is something called as threatened. Threatened species are any species which are vulnerable to extinction in near future. This embraces the categories of critically endangered, endangered and vulnerable. So that is critically endangered, endangered and vulnerable. So all these 3 things put together, it is titled as threatened. So these are all the different categories of IUCN. So this is about the basic information of IUCN. So if you have any questions, you can definitely put in comments box. We will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thanks for watching. Namaskara.